Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Same Old Arsenal podcast. It's me, Suburban Gooner Chris, and James Cook, joining you on this Sunday lunchtime that we are in the aftermath of the Nottingham Forest game, which took place yesterday at the City Ground. I believe I'm right in saying that it's Arsenal's. It's a second draw year in a row. We drew, I think it was 0-0 last year as well. I think we've won 1 out of 6 at the City Ground, admittedly, with a couple of those being in the FA Cup. And to dissect all of that, to analyse what could have been, what should have been, and what wasn't, is the fabulous James Cook. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. I think we might struggle a little bit with this one because we were saying just before we came on how dull of an affair it was. But there's a few good talking points in there and maybe a bit of perspective needed, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was, not enjoyable viewing. And I think we can all agree with that.
I'm not sure. I think we have to get to the perspective part, but I'm not sure how much I want to be Perspective FC right now, because let's get a temperature check. I want to get a temperature check from you, because for me, I've just got, and I said this in the blog this morning, and I've said it on social media today, I have a gnawing feeling inside, and it's eating away at me a little bit. And I think it's probably because it's a bit of a hangover from the Liverpool second half, for which that was really worrying signs for me. And then we had a little bit of a respite from the FA Cup. And obviously we're playing a Portsmouth team a little bit down on their luck in terms of they're down towards the bottom of the Championship. And it was a little bit difficult at the start. They came at us, and then inevitably we managed to overcome what clearly is a poorer team, and we are the more superior team. And then we had the Chelsea game, which again, we left something out there at Chelsea, but ultimately I came out of that one thinking we scored goals, we looked good, one foot in the final, one foot in the final, hopefully. And then I come into this game thinking now's the time to kick on. And I think probably what's impacted my temperature check and vibes has probably been what happened earlier on in the day with Man City and Man United. Because the perspective part is we haven't just matched what Man City have done, we've actually bettered what Man City did, albeit by a point. So can I get your kind of that temperature check first before we go into some of the talking points?
Yeah, I'm really frustrated, to be quite honest with you, because I think so many of us were not expecting that United City game to go quite the way it did. And for City to look so poor, United to look so good, win that game at a canter, let's be honest, they won that game so easily. We had a real opportunity there. And you think, okay, this has happened before, but we're not playing Liverpool. We're playing Nottingham Forest. With all due respect, they're a team. They're down the bottom end of the table. It's away from home. It's not a happy hunting ground for us. But if we're serious, we have to go to the City Ground and we have to win this game. So when that full-time whistle went, I was beyond frustrated because it felt like, okay, do we actually have a real mental problem where when City drop points, we're not able to capitalise on that? And, the counterpoint to that would be they've had a couple of draws in recent weeks as well, where we've gone on to win and we've extended the gap to kind of what it is now. And that's why we've got that buffer. But when you have a chance to not just extend the gap, but pull away, and we're not taking that, I mean, we could really separate ourselves from the rest of the pack with a win yesterday. And we haven't done that. So it's frustrating. I mean, on the other hand, Forest, they're a very well-drilled side. We saw that last season under Nuno when they had the defence that they were effectively playing with yesterday. It's the first time in forever that they've had their first-choice back line. Sells was excellent in goal for them. And it was always going to be a tough game. But I think there's a lot of things we did wrong. I think the lineup, for starters, I don't think that was quite right. And we also had ample opportunities to score in this game, and we didn't take them. And it puts a lot of pressure on that game against United next week, because that now feels like an absolute must win.
Well, this is exactly it, isn't it? And I think so. There's a few things I want to just riff off of what you just said there. I think, firstly, for me personally, we all bring our priors into this sort of stuff. And as Arsenal fans, and I'm not speaking for Arsenal fans, but I speak for myself and obviously a few people that I've kind of spoken to over the last few months or so. We're still carrying the battle scars of previous seasons. And one of the battle scars from last season, in my opinion, was failure to capitalise. And I said this on the blog yesterday. I think I said it yesterday or the day before. That 0-0 last season against Sean Dyche's Everton at home, where I think Liverpool had dropped points that either drawn or lost to Fulham. I think so. I think they drew to Fulham at home. And then we then played the 3:00 kickoff afterwards, and it was Everton. And that was a chance for us to gain 2 points on them, and we didn't. And that's the kind of stuff that is still haunting me. And that's the reason why I think I've got this gnawing, uncomfortable feeling straight in the aftermath of that result. And that feeling hasn't gone away. And then this season, where you're right, where the Liverpool game opportunity to just make that difference, even like Gabriel nods in that piece at the back post for that Liverpool, right at the end of that Liverpool game, and things could change dramatically. Yesterday was that opportunity, and I don't know about you, but I didn't feel like we weren't going to score in that first half. It felt like it was coming, but again, like the Liverpool game, that second half, I feel like it left a little bit to be desired with. What do you think, just as a whole? And then we'll get onto the lineup. In fact, give me a sort of a rebuttal on that, if you like, or a response to that. But then if you can just segue into the lineup and what you think he got wrong, that'd be useful.
Yeah, I do think we have goal scoring problems, and we spoke about this a lot last season, but for obvious reasons, because we had no Havertz, we had no Gabriel Jesus. Whereas now, I think it's more maybe down to the system and the way we're playing. And I look at the options City have got in attack, and I just wonder how well those guys would be doing if we put them in Arsenal shirts. I'd love to see what Semenyo could do at Arsenal. But I think if we're looking at the lineup yesterday, that front three, Martinelli, Gyökeres and Madueke, they all seem to me like players that would be much better equipped to play in a counter-attacking system. Like, I was fine with the team up until it got to that front three. And I get it. You have to keep Gyökeres in. He had a really good game against Chelsea, but he was kind of back to his old tricks yesterday. It was a fairly nothing performance from him, if we're being quite frank. Madueke, great game against Portsmouth. But again, I feel like, Saka, this is a big game. We have an opportunity to capitalise. Saka's your best player, or one of your best players. You need to start him in this game. And I feel like Martinelli, as much as I think he's been in great form this season, Trossard, he has that better technical ability. And I also think I don't want to go too big on the Eze stuff, because I know that he's played more football than he ever has done in his career at this stage in the season, but he's not getting a look in the league at all at the minute. He came on for the last 10 minutes of yesterday's game. It's not enough time to make an impact. It felt like a last roll of a dice, essentially, from Arteta. But he's now not even being considered on that left-hand side of the pitch, which I feel is really frustrating, because I remember when we played Forest at home and he started on the left wing and he put that ball across to Gyökeres to get the goal. Like, that could be a partnership that we've not even explored properly yet. I think it's one that could really work. So I'm, a little bit annoyed that we're not even getting Eze starts on the left. I think Martinelli was the wrong call. I think Madueke was the wrong call. And I think Arteta acknowledged that with the substitutions in the second half. So, all round, Chris, just frustration about the whole game.
Yeah, well, let's start. I want to talk about that lineup. So I agree with you. And I said it in the morning and I said it pre-kickoff, not sure about Martinelli against the team that's either going to low block or mid block, because there's two versions of Martinelli we'll get. It will be touchline hugging the wing, touch, touch, touch. Or we might get a version that comes inside a bit. Now, he did almost score. So, if he puts that chance away in the first half and we win 1-0, then you're saying that was attritional. I think someone had even said our away games are attritional, and it would have just been another one that you chalk down to 3 points, job done, move on. But it just didn't feel right. Martinelli and Gyökeres don't really work as a pairing, because they occupy, and again, I'm sort of stealing Gunner Blog, James McNicholas's comments for yesterday, but I have to agree with them and repeat them. They just feel like they occupy similar positions. And so it doesn't feel like it works. Trossard seems to get Gyökeres a little bit more. But exactly as you've just pointed out, if you're not going to play Trossard because he's played 60, 70 minutes in midweek and you want to rotate, fine. But this was a perfect opportunity to say to Eze, right, mate, we're going to have all of the ball. Forest are going to sit into a mid block. This is not like the Villa game where Villa are going to counter attack. Forest are not as what we need you to do is to get on the ball, to create chances, to be there, to be able to work in those tight spaces when they're sitting into their mid block or deep block and go for it. And I just don't think Arteta took advantage of that. And Eze seems to be on the naughty step for some reason, and I'm not really sure why, because he is a good player. And just as the final wrap up before we then move on to my next kind of question, because I do want to think, I want to kind of reflect on the number of some of the chances that we missed, and I'll throw some stats at you in a second for you to give me some opinions on. But 79, as they're coming on 79 minutes, he's a sort of player that needs to feel his way into the game. You can't feel your way into the game with 11 minutes to go. Arteta made, to his credit, he made a tactical sub at half time. He brought Trossard on, fine. Trossard wasn't amazing. I don't think he got on the ball very much. I don't think he had a very good game. Maybe we could have played Eze instead. Maybe it would have been the same result. But you can't then, on 53 minutes, I think it was, he made his second batch of subs. Again, I'm fine with that. He's clearly said to the players at half time, you've got 10 minutes, and then some of you are being hooked. Because Ødegaard, not great, if I'm honest. Martinelli, that chance miss, didn't get on the ball very much. And Madueke, you're always saying, I feel like we're going to be saying this quite a lot this season and in the future. End product is a real question mark. So he's made the decisions. I just think he made the wrong substitute decisions. So I'm kind of riffing off of you a little bit there, and I've gone into a little bit of monologue territory. So let me move into some stats, because this is where it gets interesting, because we basically did everything on paper that suggests we win this game. 15 shots to their 6. We had 3 on target. I mean, that's a question mark in itself. Our XG was over 2, so we should have scored over 2 goals. We had Martinelli missed an absolute sitter, so you can talk about that one in the first half. I think Saka's header with Sells that's a really good save in the back post. Rice put a good ball in, and Marino has just glanced header, just put it slightly wide. There was also another save from a Marino chance, and it just felt like that final touch just didn't come to us. And Gyökeres as well in the first half going through on goal, which after Murillo's made that mistake, you want your striker to be just going in behind and touching it in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned so many chances there where we scored, and it's where we could have scored. And it's a similar story against Chelsea where we scored 3 goals, great, but we should have scored about 6. If we're being totally honest, we had enough chances in that game to really put it to bed, and that's been the case for a while. We're just not clinical enough, and in games like this, Forest away, like I said before, they're down at the bottom end of the table, but it's still a tough place to go. They've got a manager that is defence first, and they're going to make it tough to break them down. So when you have a chance, you have to take it. It's really easy in those moments where Martinelli puts the ball wide, but it's a gilt-edged chance. You might not get another one of those for another half hour, 60 minutes. So you have to take those chances. And as good as Martinelli was against Portsmouth, let's not forget he also missed like a very similar opportunity in that game. So it's a bit of a concern. And do you put it down to us not being clinical enough when we need to be, or is it a case of just one of those days at the office? Either way, City are putting this title on a silver platter for us, because I mean, imagine if they'd won at United, like how we would all be feeling after that game. Thankfully they haven't, and we can be a little bit more positive than maybe we deserve to be. But it's not the end of the world, but I still feel like we're leaving a lot out there.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, about 135 minutes of football has been concerning with the goal scoring problems. As you said earlier, we do have goal scoring problems, and some of it is stemming from the fact that certain players who are normally shoo-ins to create chances and finish chances, and I'll cite Bukayo Saka as one. I mean, he came on and got half an hour today, so and Arteta did say he had a knock with him, but again, I've got a point towards that game in midweek against Chelsea. We didn't need to play, if Bukayo Saka was carrying a little bit of a knock, this was the more important game than Chelsea away. If you ask me, any day of the week, Nottingham Forest was more important. 3 points in the league was more important than that game, because Chelsea had their injuries. They were going to create chances. Saka on the pitch, Saka not on the pitch. But we also have a second leg there at home. So, I think we still would have beaten them even without Saka. So having him fully rested and then starting yesterday, I think could have made a difference, because I don't know how you feel about this, mate, but let's talk about Nonu Madueke for a second, because he beats his man and it looks electric. It's so exciting to watch. But as soon as he's beaten his man, his end product, it really actually, I just wonder if this is just who he is as a player, because we've seen this a few times now, and there's a reason why he doesn't bag 10, 15 goals a season, and we're starting to see that play out. What's your thoughts on Madueke?
I really like him. To be quite honest with you, I don't like how much we paid for him, but I think having him in the team, he is an asset. I agree with you on the end product thing, but I think even if his end product isn't as good as it needs to be, he still creates chaos. So let's say he puts the ball into a dangerous area after beating 2 men. Even if that ball is nowhere near an Arsenal man, there's a chance there's a ricochet, a deflection, something like that. Something can happen. But I still think he's young enough and still so fresh to this Arsenal side that, give it the summer going into next season, I think you're going to start to see that end product improve a little bit. At least I hope we do anyway, because he needs to go from being a guy kind of not on the fringes of the team, because he's still very much a solidified option in Arteta's mind. But if he wants to be the guy that we're talking about as being, coming in every single week, the end product has to be there, because that's what matters. It doesn't matter if you beat 2, 3, 4 men. If you're blazing it over the bar every single time you do that, it's pointless. It's worthless. But I do think he's a real asset, and I think at the start of the season I was really impressed with him. I think he's had more good games than he's had bad games, but he was brought in to be that guy to rotate with Saka, and that's what he's done effectively. And I think we've used him well in that sense. But I completely agree with what you're saying there. He should have started against Chelsea off the back of a good game against Portsmouth as well. And Saka should have come straight into this game. Like that front three we started yesterday, I don't want to say it was the reserve front three, but it's not the front three that I think is the strongest we can go with. If anything, I think, but I mean, it might sound harsh saying it's a reserve front three, but on paper for me, our best front three is Trossard, Havertz and Saka. So by playing Madueke, Gyökeres, Martinelli, they're kind of the reserve guys. And that sounds a little bit contradictory, because Gyökeres basically has started the majority of games this season for us as striker. But I just think, and going off on a bit of tangent here, but our success in the second half of the season isn't solely reliant on Havertz getting back to his best. But I think we even need to find a way of playing that suits Gyökeres, because as poor as I think he's been at times, I also think it's just not a good fit for him or for us. I just don't think the system is a good fit for the player or for the team. Whereas Havertz, we know exactly what we're getting and we know it's going to be good. And Jesus, as much as I admire him, he's not the answer. Definitely not in my eyes. I think he's a good guy to bring on for the last 20 minutes of a game, but that's where it stops and starts with me. I don't think there's anything more to him than that. So basically, I'm not saying it's Havertz or bust, because I still think this might sound crazy, but I still think we've got to talk about Mikel Merino as a genuine option up there.
Yeah,
our best football this season has come with him, but I just want to see Arsenal playing good football. And I don't feel like I really saw that yesterday, but I did see it against Chelsea. So I don't want to sound like a bit of a spoiled brat here. And I think we've got a good opportunity coming up against Inter Milan, where we're going to see a lot of guys. Hopefully Ethan will come back in. We might see more Madueke. I like you. I think rotate a lot. And if it's anything like we saw against Portsmouth, that was a really fun game. So hopefully we can have some fun against Inter Milan and bring that into United next week.
Yeah, I want to talk about Gabriel Jesus, and then let's talk about Mikel Merino as well. Gabriel Jesus, for me, yesterday, I'm not really sure what he actually offered. Like, he came on for Villa and he got that really, really good goal, and everyone was thinking, hang on a second, maybe we're going to get the Gabby Jesus that went pre-World Cup that we signed. But I don't think that player exists anymore. I mean, there's a fitness question, but also, like, he didn't really offer anything yesterday. I mean, yes, he's had one shot. He missed one big chance. Other than that, I didn't really see anything from him. It's not like he got tons and tons of touches on the ball. I'm just looking, 13 touches in his, what was that, like half an hour that he got? 13 touches in half an hour for a player that's a high touch player. It's not great. Gyökeres as well. Again, I don't really know what more to say that you haven't already said that. So I'm just going to kind of park that. But Mikel Merino brings others into play. Mikel Merino gets touches. Mikel Merino came on last night, and I thought he was actually really, really good. He was one of our better players yesterday. Created a good chance. He's had, he's had plenty of touches of the ball. He's played quite well. Mikel Merino only played. I'm just trying to look on the. He played half an hour, but I thought he looked threatening. He got a good chance with a header. He nearly got onto a ball in from Rice, I think it was. I think we have to consider this now because. And maybe, I was going to say, maybe Inter Milan is an opportunity to test it again, but I don't think we need to test it. If I'm thinking about it, that's the game where you probably play Gyökeres because you're thinking about somebody else for Man United at home. I genuinely think that because I think United will, they'll just put Maguire on him who can just go touch tight and, or that little rat bag Martinez who can just go through the back of him and get away with it. But Gyökeres is just going to be feeding off the scraps again. So we do need to change something because it seems to have, we had a good Christmas period and it just seems to have stuttered a little bit. And we could find ourselves, as you said, with the Man United game, we could find ourselves suddenly straight back into a bit of a title scrap when it's been looking like we could try and make this into a procession, which we've just not capitalised on. Let's talk about mid-blocks. Because that's what Sean Dyche came with us to yesterday. And I want your theories on why we struggle with mid-blocks. And I'm going to lead the witness a little bit because I'll give you my opinion and I just want you to tell me what you think. I think it's because the way in which the pace of the game that we play. Yesterday's pace was walking pace at times. And I know why the Arsenal team supposedly do it. The concept of rest defence and like when you've got the ball, just, taking your time on it so that you can get players get more air in the lungs, that sort of thing and all that jazz. But for me, the best iteration of an Arsenal team is an Arsenal team that's moving the ball quickly. We saw that against Chelsea. I thought we moved the ball a lot quicker. We saw that against Villa second half. I thought we moved the ball quicker. When we move the ball quicker, we've got the technical players in our team that can hurt guys, hurt opposition. But we just don't seem to do it. It's almost like we give up the first 2/3 of the match playing at walking pace so that we can try and take an opponent out in a 15-minute window. And you can't. I don't think you can win titles like that. So give me your view on the mid-block, which is what Sean Dyche did. He said, we're not going to sit deep. We're not going to press. We're going to sit in our mid-block. I'm going to flood. There was 2 banks of 5 at times that I watched. And we just had no answer, and especially when we're just at walking pace. What's your view?
I think, like we've already spoken about, the players that started the game weren't the right players for playing against that sort of system. And you've also got a lot of players there that are wanting to occupy each other's spaces, as we've already spoken about as well. Martinelli, Gyökeres, Zubamendi, Ødegaard. It doesn't help that you've got Yuri and Timber playing out of position. He's also drifting into midfield a hell of a lot as well. That seems to be like a tactical instruction. So it's all a little bit clustered and it just feels way too congested for my liking. But I also think we need to see, to use the term ballers, we need to see these guys on the pitch a lot more. Like I would love to see Trossard, Eza, Wanyeri, even, wasn't speaking so highly of him a minute ago, but Gabriel Jesus, he's really good at linking the play. You want these guys on the pitch to kind of dance and tiptoe around those low blocks and just create a bit of havoc. But the problem we've got is that we've got a manager that doesn't trust those guys defensively. So even if you've got the best defense in the Premier League and you've got someone like Declan Rice sitting in, he's still going to want to play Rice and Zubamendi. Whereas in a game like this, why couldn't you have played someone like Eza and Ødegaard together? Or you could have played Wanyeri in there, who's not even getting on the bench at the minute. And these are guys that have that potential to, okay, maybe not be so good at the defensive side, but if you want to win these games and play with a bit more risk and convert draws into wins, which, we do have to if we want to win the league, you have to be a bit more pragmatic. City went to Forest and won, but look at the players that they had who were so influential in that game. Reinders, Cherky, fun guys, like fun players. We are kind of taking those fun players away. And that, I think, is hindering us. Because, like you say, it was walking pace. It was the horseshoe of death at times. And then it doesn't help as well. Like, you've got Gyökeres, who just kind of follows Murillo around, and like his runs on, they're non-existent, to be quite honest. Like, it's very basic movement. Yeah, it's boring.
Do you think I do want to talk about the Inter Milan game, but I just want to jump in on a quick one. Do you think Kai Havertz should either play 30 minutes or start or something to get him prepped for Man United?
It's a really tough one, mate. I don't think he's going to start against United. I mean, he's been back, a couple of weeks? And I mean, I want to get to a point where he is like the starting striker by March. But he's been out for a whole year practically. But he did look really sharp when he came on against Portsmouth. He looked good against Chelsea. So the signs are there that he's doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and he looks up to speed. But we said the same about Gabriel Jesus when he came back into the team, right? Everyone's like, oh, he's been out for a year, but he looks amazing. And they were like, oh, yeah, this is the Gabriel Jesus that was pre-injury against Man United last season. That's not a dig at him. It's just, I think, again, I'm going off on a tangent here, but if we're talking about players as individuals, Gabriel Jesus is a guy that was really exciting for a couple of weeks before he got his horrible injury. He was really good against Palace. He scored some good goals. But before that, I think a lot of people forget he was really poor. And we're not going to see that player that was pre-2022 World Cup. Like, that was 3 years ago now. That player isn't coming back. He's almost 29 years old, which is why we're pinning so much hope on Havertz coming back. But again, we've got to rein in our expectations. And that's why it's so frustrating. It's not quite worked out with Gyökeres. But yeah, I think Matthew de Souza's probably got it right there. Start Havertz, give him an hour. And then if he gets through that, start him against United. It feels like a bit of a risk. But, one thing that I think we can do to Gyökeres' benefit is actually use him as more of an impact sub, because we haven't done that at all this season. There's a handful of times where he's come off the bench. But if you've got Havertz for an hour, and let's say we're winning that game, to then bring Gyökeres on when the opposition are pushing up, like, that's going to only benefit him. So I think we need to see that sooner rather than later, and that should give both Havertz, Gyökeres, and the team a lot more confidence.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like just seeing Gyökeres as an impact sub. Let's just see if that works. Like, he can there's still minutes out there this season for him to start games and get 60, 70 minutes, but it just doesn't. It's not working at the moment. And we need to change something. And we're all looking at Havertz because Jesus has not done too much from the bench. But I think something has to change against Inter. That is an opportunity to test.
Why do you think? Sorry, mate. Just out of interest, why do you think Havertz didn't come on yesterday? Because that was like an obvious sub for me.
I think there's a pecking order at the moment. I think they're managing his minutes. I think they probably want a solid, like, almost month of full training within him, just to make sure that he's all right, giving him just odd minutes here and there in less pressure environments. I do wonder if they might be earmarking maybe 30 minutes for Inter Milan. And so if it was an opportunity to say, right, well, you can just be with the squad now, but 30 minutes at Inter Milan, you can go, you can have some minutes, then it might be worth it because it's less of a risk. So that's kind of the vibes that I'm getting. I want to move on to talk about the defence a little bit, get your view, because Arteta referenced post-game that another match in which the opposition have had 0 shots on target. Do you take that glass half full perspective that on the upside, defensively, we look very, very, well, I say we look very, very sound, but we did concede 2 goals against Chelsea. We conceded against Portsmouth. Liverpool, these two Premier League 0-0 draws that we've had, the problems, we're all talking about the problems in attack, but defensively, Liverpool got, again, no shots on target, like first time in something like 6 years or something mental.
Or it's way longer than that. 2011, I think it was.
Yeah, it's that's impressive. And I think we do need to give a little bit of a kudos to the back line, even if we are lamenting the forward line at the moment. What's your kind of view on that?
Yeah, I've got 0 issues with the defence, to be honest with you. And I think it's probably, it goes overlooked a little bit that we're actually not losing these games, and the bare minimum is that a lot of the time we are going to draw them because we've just got such a good bedrock of a defence, a midfield, that I just feel entirely safe with them. And when you've grown up watching, the likes of Philippe Senderos, Pascal Sigan, Johan de Giroud, and in most recent years, Socrates and Mustafi, it's not something you take for granted. So to have these guys is great. And I'm frustrated that we conceded against Portsmouth and the 2 goals against Chelsea, but I mean, they're cup ties. They're a little bit more expansive games. The goals we conceded against Chelsea are, there were errors in there, but they were also quite fortunate in the way they fell to Garnacho, and one of them was just a really good finish. So I'm not reading too much into that. But in the 2 league games, yeah, we've looked really, really solid at the back, and it's not been an issue. And like I say, at least we've got a point out of this game, and we have still, it shouldn't be forgotten, extended the lead. It's just, there is another game today with a team that is going to be pushing us all the way, I think, at the minute, and Aston Villa. And I'd actually be curious to go back to you, Chris. Like, how seriously are you taking Villa? Because we're talking 7.7 points, most likely going to be 4 at the end of today, which suddenly is kind of a nothing gap. So how are you feeling about Villa?
They are having a phenomenal season. I think you can't, when you get to 22 games in, or they're 21 games in, you can't rule that stuff out. The only thing I would say is that they do have some tough matches coming up. So they have got Newcastle. Their next home game after this is Newcastle away. They've got Brentford at home. Brentford lost to Chelsea yesterday, but they've been playing well. Bournemouth, odd team. You don't know quite what you're going to get. We had a tough game against them. They've got Brighton. They do have Leeds, although Leeds have hit some form. They've got to play Chelsea. They've got to play Man United away. They've got to play Forest away, and Forest will low block or mid block again. Their last 2 games of the season are Liverpool and Man City. So they've got some tough games. They've also got European games in there as well. And we know that Unai loves a bit of reprioritization and stuff. They're still in the FA Cup. Who do they play in the FA Cup? They've got Newcastle in the FA Cup, so he won't be able to rotate there. So I do think they've got a number of tricky games, and they don't have a massive squad. So all of that sounds like I'm writing them off a little bit, but I think they'll win today. That takes them to 4 points, and you can't dismiss that. You can't dismiss that at all. They don't. If you look at the underlying metrics, they don't exactly. They flattered to deceive. And I think we gave them a good battering at home. I think they'll lose a few more games. I think defensively we're more assured than them. But I think, they're a bit of an anomaly. So I'm not really answering your question because I'm not really. I still don't get Aston Villa. It's probably because I don't get Unai Emery, and I don't get how they're able to pull out some of the chances they've got. But it'll be an interesting one against Everton today. I think they'll win, but I don't know. I'll be quite keen to actually have a good look at Aston Villa today. What about you?
Yeah, same. I'm looking forward to seeing how they play today. But I do think whilst they're there, like, it'd be wrong to not take them seriously. That they are there. If it goes to 4 points, that suddenly feels like a much tighter gap, and they have got classy players. It's just like you say, they have got those tough games. They're letting players go like Marlon, which I thought was really surprising because they haven't got huge depth options up front. So I'll be interested to see if they do any business in this January transfer window. But the deeper they get in the Europa League, the more congested their fixtures are going to be. And like you say, Emery does have issues with prioritization. Even if he doesn't rotate, that squad's going to get run into the ground. I think if it wasn't for the fact they were playing Liverpool and City as their 2 final games of the season, I'd probably think that they could take us all the way here. But because of that, I don't think they will. But I'm not writing them off. Like, to any Villa fans that might be listening to this, it's definitely not a case of that. They've done really well to get where they are, and if they win today, they're the ones breathing down our necks. Not Manchester City. And as tough as a game against Newcastle at St James's Park is, like, they're very capable of going there and winning that game. And if we don't win against Man United, I mean, it gets even tighter, right? So that's why I'm saying next week, irrespective of what happens in any of the other games, we have to beat United, and I think we have to beat them well, just to not restore a good feeling, but it'd be nice to, I think so many of us were going into Liverpool expecting a 3-4 nil win, and we didn't get the performance, the goals. It's 2 league games without a goal now, isn't it? You can't go 3 league games without a goal. So I expect a really strong side against United, and I'm not going to be greedy and say I want a 3-4 nil win, but I would like a really well thought out, really good performance and a nice 2-0 win. Well, that would make my day.
If we win 1-0 against Man United, but we've absolutely battered them, then as far as I'm concerned, it's like job done. It's like you can still ask questions about, we should have scored 4 or 5 that day. But Man United will be doing that from their game yesterday. They should have had 4 or 5. But ultimately, they've beaten Man City 2-0. Man City they play Wolves at home. So that is the most surefire way of them getting back onto the winning bandwagon, having drawn and lost their last 4 games in the league, in which it's really given us that opportunity, despite our stuttering sort of form in the last couple of games. That's how we've been able to just pull away from them a little bit. But Man City, there is absolutely zero chance. We've all had jokes about saying there's no way Man United will beat City, but that was more of a challenge than Wolves at home will be next weekend. So it's a crunch one next weekend, and they've got the 3:00 Saturday kickoff, whereas we play 24 hours later. So they will be down to 4. It will be down to 4 points at least. And if Villa win today, obviously that's 4 points, and then obviously Villa have got Newcastle. I don't know. Let me just check.
Newcastle, I think they play just before us, 2:00 Sunday.
Yeah, they play 2:00. So by the time we play, it could be down to 1 point.
Great.
And that's why this becomes vital next weekend. I just want to round off the Nottingham Forest game with one sort of final point, and then we'll do some predictions, maybe take 1 or 2 questions. So if you've got a question or 2 you want to pop in the chat, then please feel free to do so. The penalty incident. I am confused. I don't understand VAR's explanation of how this wasn't a penalty. I think I said on social media, it's like, wow, that's an interesting one. It'll be mental if they don't give this. I can't remember who the co-commentator, the lady on co-commentary was on TNT Sport last night, but they would Fletch and whoever her name was, I can't remember. She was saying, well, I don't know what he's done there. I don't know why on earth would he move his hand towards the ball there. Like, she knew, they were clearly partisan towards Forest. Fletch always is towards a smaller team. But they knew that this was a situation where the guy is he's handled it. He's literally, the ball's rolled down. It's his own player that's nudged him. He's tried to keep it in play somehow. And then when even Fletch went, well, VAR have cleared it. And her response was, wow. Even in real time, the pundits have been saying that. I saw something which suggested, I think it was on Arsblog, he was quoting how Steven Gerrard had said, I don't think it's a penalty. I mean, Steven Gerrard's always going to say that. Of course he is. I'm baffled. I'm baffled as to how that is not a penalty. I don't understand how you can almost cup the ball and not say it's a deliberate attempt. It's not like he's been nudged and his hand's gone up and it's just flicked the ball. It's clear and obvious. And the thing that frustrates me even more, and then I'll get your take on it, mate, just send like Darren England doesn't have to say, nope, cleared. He could just say, I'm not sure about this. Michael, just give me a second opinion. Like, I'm not sure. I'll send you to the monitor. Just tell me what you think. And then between Darren England and Michael Oliver, I mean, probably those 2 idiots had still could rule it out. But honestly, I was dumbfounded. Now, I need to caveat just before I let you talk and say, we should have been ahead anyway. That is not a reason why we didn't win the game. We should have taken our chances. We talked about all the stats, the XG. However, when a situation like that presents itself, you need to be giving that, and it's unacceptable that PGMOL and the VAR, it's not PGMOL, the VAR did not give that. Can I get your thoughts?
I think the only thing that saves him there is that he's got his own teammate pushing him in the back. And I think VAR have probably looked at that and thought, okay, because that's happening, it's made him do what he's done. But the more you watch it, the more, like you say, he kind of cups the ball out of play. And all I can think of is that Anya is interpreting that his teammate is an Arsenal player. So he's expecting that pressure to be from an Arsenal man, which is why he's done what he's done. So it's, am I surprised? No. It's Arsenal. It happens. So, yeah, I mean, it's not an excuse, because, like you say, we should have been ahead at this point in the game, and I think it would have been really harsh on Forest. But it could be a big turning point in the season.
I'm just going to pull up something that Matthew's just said, because he said, Chris, you can't do that. Once a ref goes to the monitor, they're expected to give the pen. I prefer if they did have a consultation and we could hear, but it doesn't work like that. That's actually not true, because we saw this, I think it was 2 seasons ago at Nottingham Forest. I can't remember who Nottingham Forest played, but Michael Oliver was sent to the monitor. He had a look. I think it was for a penalty decision, and he decided, actually, no, I'm going to stick with my own decision. And that's what needs to happen more often. The application of the sending the referee to the monitor is not, I don't think it's really delivered accurately enough, or the intent is wrong. They should, if they're not sure, if there's a subjective call, you get 2 people's eyes on it. Don't rely on a man watching a monitor, because it's still subjective. You say to the referee, this is subjective, and don't lead the witness. So Darren England can say, look, we've had a look at it. We're not sure. Can you have a look at it now? I'm going to send you to the monitor. You just have a look at it. And that's what should happen any time they go to the monitor. The problem is when they get sent to the monitor, we all know they're going to reverse the decision, because that happens 99 times out of 100. There is precedent. There is precedent with Michael Oliver. There is precedent in Nottingham, in that physically in that ground. But the problem that we've got is that you're getting one person's opinion that's just watching it in the stands. And do you know what? If it was me, if they sent Michael Oliver to the thing, and under the guidance that we aren't sure, you have the final decision, he can have another look and he can say, all right, I still think no, or actually that looks like a penalty, I'm going to give it. That's what's infuriating. It's the misapplication of VAR for me. I don't know if you want to build on that, or should we start talking about Inter Milan and Man United?
No, I mean, I just touched on it really briefly, but it's like you say there's this expectation when the referee is advised to go to the monitor. You hear it in stands all the time. Like, there's always a round of applause as if they know exactly what is coming. Like, they're going to be given a decision, whether it's a red card, whether it's a penalty. It's always they're going to the monitor. This is a foregone conclusion. Whereas it shouldn't be like that. It should be they're going to take this as an opportunity to either reaffirm the on-field decision, or go with what VAR are saying, that maybe you need to have another look at this. It's just become a bit pantomime, where it's like, oh, okay, this is now happening. This is going to be the penalty, and it is frustrating. Like in those instances, that he's not even given the opportunity to look. Yeah, exactly that.
Exactly, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Give the referee on the pitch the chance to have another look. Anyway. Matthew just said, get rid of VAR. I couldn't agree more, mate. Let's talk about Inter Milan, and then we'll talk about Man United. We'll do predictions, and then we'll get out of here. So what's your lineup for Inter Milan?
My lineup for Inter Milan, I think it would be something relatively similar to what we saw against Portsmouth, to be honest. I do have slight worries about Ben White playing another game so soon. He's played 3 games in quick succession now, hasn't he? And he pulled up when this happened before. So if there's a way we can rest him, I'd be looking to do it. We've got Mosquera back in the side now, so maybe he could come in at right back. And I mean, then you're still having to play Saliba or Gabriel, aren't you? Then Lewis Skelly at left back. This is definitely a game for him. Could we have a surprise with Hincapié or Calafiori, one of those guys back? I mean, we really need Calafiori back. I think a lot of our attacking problems are down to him being missing. He's, low-key become one of our most important attacking players, so hopefully he's back soon. And yeah, I mean, there's a shout in there for Marley Salmon, so we could play him at right back. I don't actually think that's the worst idea in the world, to be honest. I know he's so young, but, this is a game where it's not a must-win, and he's looked fine every time he's played. I know they're non-pressure situations, but there's not a huge amount of pressure on this game. So maybe Salmon, maybe Mosquera right back, but I would like to try and rest Saliba and Gabriel if we can. So I know I'm not giving you an answer there, but it's a headache. Or even Norgard at centre half. That's an option. I mean, he has to start in this game in some way, shape, or form because he's looked really good recently. So Norgard in a various position. Marino definitely starting. I'd like to see Wanyeri play. Ezra off the left. And I would, we've spoken about Havertz, haven't we? So Havertz through the middle. And then I'd keep Madueke on the right.
A quick one on Calafiori. I talked about this last season. We talked about it last season. He's a great player. I think he's fantastic. But again, we're talking about injuries. He's already missed 11 days in November with hip problems. He's now up to 18 days as of the 12th of January. So he's going to have missed close to, we're going to come up to a month when he's been out. And this wasn't just meant to be a little knock that he's got, a muscle knock. And it's 5 games that he's missed. And we've got ourselves another injury-prone player. Park that for now. For me, I'm with you. I think we should do Jurien Timber to start at right back. I think job share, though. So give Ben White 30 minutes. So I think Ben White could do 30 minutes. So Jurien Timber 60, Ben White 30, brings Timber off, puts Ben White on, keeps the cadence of him being up there. I thought Ben White looked pretty good yesterday as well at times. I thought he was pretty decent. He got caught out towards the end of the game, but I think he was more tiring in midfield. So I do Gabriel and I do Mosquera, but I might do a Saliba, but maybe Mosquera comes on with 30 minutes to go, depending on how fit he is, just to get some minutes in there. I'd absolutely, like you do, Lewis Skelly. I'd have Norgard just anchoring. I'd say screw it. Like we need to prep. We need to have everyone ready and 100% for Man United. So Norgard goes in there. I'd have Eza starting on the left 8. I'd have Nwaneri. I'd start Marino because he didn't play. He didn't come on from the start, so I'd start Marino in that right 8. So Eza and Marino perhaps linking up. I wouldn't have Saka starting. I would say to Madueke, crack on, you have a go. I'd say to Martinelli, because he loves a bit of Champions League football, but I wouldn't play Martinelli against Man United, so I'd have Martinelli on the left. And then up front, I'd play Gabriel Jesus, and I'd say, I'm going to give you 60, 70 minutes. Show us what you can do, because at the moment, you played against a good Crystal Palace team and you were all right. He had good minutes there. Now's the chance. And that enables us to rest a lot of players. And then maybe we have a test of that, your Gyökeres theory, having him as an impact sub, see what happens, see if he looks good as an impact sub, because we've not really seen that so far. And then we've got the Man United game, and I'd go full strength there and the best 11. So it's Timber, like you said, hopefully it's Calafiori, Gabriel, Saliba, it's Zubimendi, Odegaard, Rice. Question over Gyökeres up top. Maybe you've given some minutes to Havertz, but like you said, I don't think he'll start. But you play Saka and you play Trossard. What do you think on that for Man United?
Yeah, you got to go as strong as you possibly can do. Unless someone has a blistering game in midweek, then that's the only way I can see us diverting away from what I think we all think on paper is our strongest starting 11. Be interested to see if for United we've got one of Hincapié or Calafiori back, because I really think quite a lot of our problems are actually stemming from the left back situation. I think we need Timber back on that right hand side, or even carry on playing Ben White, because I think he offers us so much going forwards, and I think he looks really good in all of the games that he's played recently. So he's in really good form. But yeah, Hincapié or Calafiori back, that'd be big for us against United. And then the team, I think, pretty much picks itself.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Final thoughts, and then should we do some predictions so that Amanda doesn't tell us off?
Yeah, final thoughts. I am remaining positive. Like 7 points at this stage in the season, really good place to be. I never would have expected that at the start of the season. But I think we just can't keep like passing up these opportunities that City are giving us, because I know we're still early in January, but if forget the Liverpool game, but if we'd have won yesterday, to be 9 points clear of them, irrespective of what Villa do today, the mental sucker punch that would give to City, we would just drain them, I think. And every time we give them like an inch, they got that motivation to be like, okay, we've not done the job in the past 4 league games. We've drawn 3, lost 1. But now we've got that opportunity to bring in Mark Gay, get Semenyo properly bedded into the team. We've got all these attacking options now. We've got Cherky, we've got Reinders, we've got, you know, the best Premier League striker, the best striker in the world in Erling Haaland. We can't keep giving them that opportunity to get back into this. You know, we have to kill this at some point. I just don't want us leaving this to April, because I do think this team does have a problem with pressure, to be honest with you. I do think that the more intense this gets and the more higher the stakes are, the more that starts to feed into the players' minds. And we need to be in a pretty comfortable position. Easier said than done. There's no easy games away from home in the Premier League against any side. But yeah, I just think this team need a little bit of respite. And it doesn't help when you're playing games literally every 3 days at the minute.
Yeah. I agree with you. So City play Wolves next weekend. When we play United at home, the following weekend we play Leeds away. That's going to be a tricky one because they're in form. City play Tottenham away, which is a bit of a bogey side for them. So that might be an interesting one. Although, watched Tottenham yesterday get done at the last by West Ham, and they are terrible at home. They won't be terrible at home when we play them in about 6 weeks' time or whatever it is, but they are terrible at home with everyone else. The week after that, we're at home to Sunderland. City are away to Liverpool. So these next 3 games, we need to be scoring goals. We need to be laying down markers. And if we win the next 3 league games, we could be sat on this podcast feeling very, very different. But for now, it's trepidation.
Oh, mate, they're tough games, though. They're really tough games. Like, I think the United game is really hard, given that I think Carrick got it perfect with his lineup yesterday. I think he went back to basics. He looked at players like Maguire, Martinez, and was like, you know, you guys have been out in the cold a little bit. We're just going to play a pretty basic 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. We're going to put Fernandes higher up the pitch when he's been playing deeper. We're going to put Mbuemo up top, who's back from the AFCON. We've got Diallo back. He got that right. You know, whether that's sustainable, I'm not too sure. But for that game to just go back to basics works perfectly. And that goodwill could take them, after a week's rest, into that game against us, and they could put in a similar performance. But we've got to make sure we don't let them. But then Leeds away is a really, really tough game. I don't think that's easy at all. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. They've come right into form at the minute. I mean, they've been in pretty good form since Christmas, if not before. So that's not easy. And then Sunderland at home, like Granit Xhaka coming back to the Emirates, that's a really tough game. So these are not easy games.
No, really, really not easy games. Leeds United won yesterday 1-0. They were beaten 4-3 against Newcastle, but then they've had a 1-1 draw against Man United. They drew 0-0 with Liverpool, drew 1-1 with Sunderland at Sunderland. We know that's a tough one. They've beaten Palace 4-1. So Leeds are actually, apart from that Newcastle, it's one defeat in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. One defeat in 9 games for Leeds. So they're a lot of draws, but they're picking up points. They're accumulating. We can't afford draws right now. That's it from us today. I hope you have been able to get through the 54 odd minutes of James and I feeling a little bit down. I think we're cognizant of the fact that we're 7 points clear. And so, hey, it's not the end of the world, but we need to get back to winning ways. That needs to start. Doesn't need to start against Inter, but it definitely needs to start against Man United. From myself, from James, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully we're going to catch you next time on the same old Arsenal podcast. Thanks, peeps.